Welcome to the press conference on the occasion of the visit of Muchtar Tileuberdi, Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister of the Republic of Kazakhstan. Minister Schallenberg, the floor is yours.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear Deputy Prime Minister, I am happy to welcome you in Vienna, and I very much appreciate your visit, not only to Vienna, but also to Brussels and Geneva, that you undertake this outreach to organizations like the UN, the OSCE, and the EU in order to explain what happened in Kazakhstan. And it's very important and useful for me to get first-hand information. I believe we had a very fruitful exchange beforehand. It will be no surprise to you that the recent events in Kazakhstan have been very alarming to all of us. And the pictures and the news coming out honestly shocked us. And at this occasion, let me express my condolences to all the families of those who were killed during the developments in Kazakhstan, and I deeply regret the loss of life. It is important that violence has ceased now, that we're now in a situation of a high degree of calmness, and I wholeheartedly welcome the full withdrawal of the troops of the Collective Security Treaty Organization, the CTSO. This is all the more welcome because we have seen in recent times a certain tendency by Russia not to leave once they have boots on the ground in the third country. So it is all the more welcome that the CSTO troops have fully withdrawn again. And now it is a time to fully restore peace and stability in the country. It is not only in the interest of the people of Kazakhstan, it is also in the interest of UN partners like the European Union. You are by far the biggest country, the most important partner, and the most important economy in Central Asia. But this restoration of peace and stability has to be done, and I believe we agree on that, in full respect of fundamental freedoms, the freedom of expression, and due process to those who are facing charges. And we count on you, and we count on the government of President Tokayev to start a full, transparent, and independent investigation of the events. I believe this is not only important for your international partners, but as I explained beforehand, also for the people of Kazakhstan, and to find lasting stability and peace in the country. And I'm thankful to you for the information you provided me with for the next steps. We are very much looking forward and interested in the socio-economic reforms announced by President Tokayev, and I believe they're necessary in order to win back the trust of the international community, of international investors, but also, and most importantly, of the people of Kazakhstan. And we have discussed it beforehand. Kazakhstan is a key partner for the European Union, for Austria. There's a high interest from our side, from the European side and the Austrian side, to increase our bilateral relations. We have a long-standing economic cooperation in the area of energy, but there are other areas like infrastructure or green technology where I believe there's still potential in our bilateral relations. But obviously, economic relations, investments need stability, needs legal certainty, need rule of law, and need a clear partition of powers. And this year is a very particular year for us because we're celebrating the 30th anniversary of Austrian-Kazakh diplomatic relations, and maybe this is a good point in time to reinvigorate the bilateral relations. So, having said so, thank you very much for being here, and thank you for the very frank and open discussion, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, my dear colleague. Ladies and gentlemen, the purpose of my visits to Brussels, Vienna, and Geneva is to provide our foreign partners and international community with the first-hand information about the development of situation and the latest event in Kazakhstan. So I'm very appreciate to Minister Schallenberg for very productive conversation and for the hospitality. So I informed him detailed what's happening in Kazakhstan, and as you know, a few days we was under the massive terrorist attacks, and our law enforcement agencies and armed forces fight against them. But we needed some international support, and so our president have to refer for the assistance to the collective security treaty organizations. This is the only one organization we can legally refer for the assistance to send the peacekeeping forces. We don't have any other organization or agreements with the foreign state for such of kind assistance. And as you know, the mandate of these peacekeeping forces was very strictly limited. They provided protection of the strategical infrastructure objects in Kazakhstan, which has allowed us to relocate the law enforcement agencies and armed forces from two places to fight against the terrorists. So for now, situation is stabilized, and our president ordered to launch the full-scale investigation. And as you know, for now, we have about 2,000 detained persons, and he ordered to prosecutor office to mitigate the punishment for those who was involved with the less aggravative circumstances. And we definitely provide them with a fair trial, and some persons will be detained in prison only under the court decision. So we trying to be open and transparent in investigation and the trials. So tomorrow I would like to Geneva. We'll meet the UN High Commissioner on Human Rights officials, and we would like that UN Special Rapporteur mandate holders could come to Kazakhstan and observe these processes. And all of them have standby open invitation from our government, so they are free to come to Kazakhstan. Yes, we also discussed with my colleague the further development of our bilateral relationship. I confirmed that Kazakhstan will stay committed to all international obligations, and we will continue our multi-vectoral foreign policy, and we will ensure the security of the foreign companies, investors in Kazakhstan, and we identified some new perspectives and areas for our mutually beneficial economic cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Appa, bitte.
Yeah, my name is Alexander Schallenberg from the Austrian Press Agency. Dear Foreign Minister and Deputy Prime Minister, I would like to ask you, is the situation in your country finally calmed down now and stabilized? How many people are in prison now? And was the order to shoot by President Tokayev to shoot at demonstrators really necessary?
Yes, now is situation under control and fully stabilized, and as I already said, 7,000 persons was brought to the police stations. 5,000 of them already released with the administrative boardings or fines, and 2,000 still detained, and they are under this investigation process. Unfortunately, we have these human casualties. 225 persons were killed, among them 19 of law enforcement agency personnel, also the civilians, and including terrorists. Yes, regarding the words of our president, open fire without warnings, was taken from the speech. Definitely he didn't mean that against the demonstrators. It was good, it was strong signal to the armed militants. If they not stop, then our armed forces and law enforcement personnel will fight again with their firearms. And so the open fire without warnings means against armed militants only. Thank you.
Thank you. I think there was one question here.
Thank you. My name is Jänner, agency Habar, Kazakhstan. I have two questions to Minister Schallenberg. Mr. Schallenberg, after the tragic situation with hybrid terrorist attacks on my country, on my city, I was in Almaty in these very difficult days. Our president, Mr. Kassym-Jomart Tokayev, called on the people of Kazakhstan to consolidate in the fight against terrorism. How do you assess this, and what can you say about the possible development of further cooperation between Austria and Kazakhstan in this sphere? And my second question, how do you see the development of further relations between two sides in the pandemic, post-pandemic time? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. As I said at the beginning, I mean, Kazakhstan is by far the biggest country, a key economic partner, not only for us, but for the whole European Union in the region. And obviously there's a high interest on our side to strengthen and develop further our bilateral relationships. But as I said at the same time, this needs security, this needs peace, this needs stability, and nothing is more volatile than investment interests. And having said so, I have high expectations of the investigation that my colleague announced, because I believe this is an important process for the people in your country, but also for the international community and the international business community. And we all are suffering from the pandemic. We have been suffering now for 18 months from this pandemic, and we all were very hopeful that this year will be the year where we can finally leave it behind us, and we can finally re-establish again the ties and visits and multilateral fora the way we knew it until 2019. And I believe that international developments show that we need more meetings, more dialogue, and more encounters than ever. And Kazakhstan and Austria and the European Union are no exception in this endeavor.
So, in the Mitte, die Dame.
I have two questions for the Foreign Minister regarding the Ukraine. First of all, how likely do you think that the situation will escalate in the near future between Ukraine and Russia? And if so, are you preparing for more migrants moving to Europe or to Austria, especially if there are going to be some Russian operations?
Well, I don't want to speculate, but yes, the situation is extremely worrisome. And yes, we have to find the possibility to calm things down again. And I'm very thankful for all my colleagues and for the European Union and the United States, first of all, to engage in this dialogue. Because as I said, this is the one and the only way out of this. I've been following very closely each and every single public statement by my colleague Sergei Lavrov or by President Putin. For the time being, they're rather aggressive in tone, but I'm still hopeful that we will find common ground. And yes, there are many things that the Russians have been put on the table which is simply unacceptable. And if you look at the situation in Kazakhstan, well, countries are free to choose their alliances. And it has to be a right which is applicable to everybody. There's the final act of Helsinki, which in 1975 we all agreed on, including the Soviet Union at the time, at the height of the Cold War. And the principles we agreed on then: equality, the equal-footed sovereignty of member states, the non-recourse to violence or threat of violence, the respect of the territorial integrity of all partners of the Helsinki Final Act. These are principles which, from my perspective, are still a bedrock of the European security structure. They haven't changed. So I believe, and I'm still hopeful, that we will find a solution. In case the situation deteriorates, I can only say we are currently preparing internally a very strong, united answer from the European Union, but there will be an answer going beyond the European Union. There will be an answer by the free world and the West.
We have time for one more question. If there is one, I think you, yes, please.
Hi, Blaise Gauquelin from the French press agency, Agence France Presse, AFP. For Mr. Foreign Minister, Russia troops have left the territory now. Is this a final departure for your country? And the writers are terrorists trained abroad, you said, according to your government too. In which country, actually?
Sorry, again?
In which country the terrorists, the rioters, were trained?
Yeah, I understand. First of all, I would like to say that peacekeeping forces of this collective security treaty of organization was sent not only by Russia, but also other members like Armenia, Kyrgyzstan, Belarus, and Tajikistan. So it's very important to note. And today, the last of the peacekeeper left of Kazakhstan territory. Yes, when we talk about terrorist organization, first of all, we believe that they belongs to the Islamist radical groups, and many my friends called to me who lives in Almaty, and our ambassador also that time was there. He eyewitnessed that among the armed attackers there are a lot of people who who spoke Kazakh with a big accent, which shows that they are not native speakers. And then some injured of them was in hospital, and doctors found that they don't speak Kazakh or Russian. So they speak some different Asian languages. And also they acted as Islamist radicals. So 2 policemen was beheaded, and they also attacked the morgues and took the 41 bodies of the attackers, which shows that they acting like these radical extremists. They wouldn't like that these bodies can be identified. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you, ministers.
Thank you.